I never thought I would have a secret ally in my own home. Not my parents, not my friends, and certainly not my sister. We were close in the way siblings are close, the occasional teasing and constant arguments over the smallest things, but there was always that invisible wall between us, built from years of unspoken rules and expectations. I liked things a certain way. I liked how I dressed, how I presented myself, even the way I carried myself, but it wasn't the way my family expected. I had learned early that some things are better kept hidden, locked away like forbidden treasures. It all started one rainy afternoon when I was rummaging through my sister's closet. I didn't mean to invade her space, I swear I didn't. But there I was, standing in front of a mirror, draping one of her skirts over my waist, trying to imagine what it felt like, just for a moment, to be someone else, someone freer, lighter, more expressive. I froze when I heard the soft shuffle of footsteps behind me. "You actually, like that?" Her voice was calm, almost curious, and not the teasing tone I expected. I spun around, heart pounding like a drum, and there she was, my sister, my older sister, leaning against the doorway with arms crossed. My face burned with embarrassment. I tried to shrug it off, tried to laugh it away. "I was just checking something," I mumbled, fumbling with the skirt. She didn't laugh, didn't scold. Instead, she stepped closer, her eyes softening, and I realized she wasn't judging me. She was watching me, studying me, and in that moment, I felt a strange mix of fear and relief. "You don't have to hide," she said quietly. Those words hit me harder than I expected. Hide. That was the word I had been living under for years. Hide your feelings, hide your tastes, hide your true self. And here she was, offering a lifeline in the form of simple words. We didn't talk much at first. There wasn't a manual for this, no guidebook for when your sister becomes your unexpected confidant. But she started leaving small hints of support, clothes she thought I'd like, subtle compliments, even just letting me borrow a scarf or jacket without comment. It was tiny, almost invisible at first, but to me, it felt monumental. Every gesture whispered that it was okay to explore who I was, even if the world outside our home wouldn't understand. One evening, she suggested something daring. "Come with me," she said, eyes gleaming with mischief. "I've got something to show you." I hesitated, but something about her confidence, the way she always seemed to know when to push me just enough, made me follow her. She led me to a small room at the back of our house I'd never been in before. It was filled with mirrors, makeup, and racks of clothes that seemed more like art than apparel. I realized then that this was her personal sanctuary, a place where expression wasn't just allowed, it was celebrated. "Try whatever you want," she said, handing me a flowing dress that shimmered like liquid light. "I want to see you, really see you." My hands shook as I took it from her. The moment I stepped into the fabric, something shifted. I wasn't just wearing a dress. I was stepping into a version of myself I had been afraid to admit existed. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the reflection staring back. There was fear, yes, but also courage, curiosity, and an undeniable spark of joy. The first time I left the house dressed like that was terrifying. Even though it was just the backyard, even though it was just my sister beside me, my heart raced, my stomach churned. But she held my hand, steadying me in ways no one else ever had. "You're safe with me," she whispered, and suddenly the world seemed less threatening, the air less heavy. We started experimenting in secret, transforming not just our appearances but our understanding of each other. She taught me how to walk differently, how to carry myself with confidence, how to let the world see me without shame. In return, I shared with her the parts of me I had kept locked away, the little sketches, the poems, the private thoughts that never made it to anyone else. It was a strange, exhilarating partnership, one built on trust, secrecy, and a shared rebellion against expectations. But it wasn't always easy. There were moments of doubt, moments when I wondered if we were crazy, moments when the fear of being discovered clawed at my chest. One night, my parents almost caught me as I was practicing a new outfit. I froze, heart hammering, praying they wouldn't notice. My sister swooped in like some guardian angel, diverting attention with casual conversation, laughter, and a perfectly timed spill of tea. Later, she looked at me with a grin that was equal parts victory and mischief. "See? You're unstoppable when I'm around." Her support didn't just make me braver, it made me bolder. I started venturing out in ways I never had, testing the boundaries of my comfort, exploring who I was without the weight of constant judgment. With her beside me, every step felt safer, every challenge more surmountable. She became my anchor in a world that seemed determined to define me before I had a chance to define myself. There was one day, though, that changed everything. She had planned a small gathering, a casual hangout with a few close friends who didn't know me in this new light. I was terrified. My body shook, my palms sweated, and every excuse to stay home screamed in my mind. But she took my hand, looked me in the eyes, and said, "They don't matter. I'll be there. I've got your back." The night of the gathering, I stepped into the world as me, fully and unapologetically. And for the first time, people saw me and not just saw me, but accepted me, laughed with me, talked with me, treated me like the person I had always been inside. I caught glimpses of pride in my sister's eyes, the subtle nods that said, "I knew this was you all along." In that moment, I realized that transformation isn't just about appearances. It's about courage, about trust, about finding the people who will hold the light for you when the world seems determined to dim it. After that night, everything changed. My sister and I became closer than ever, our bond no longer defined by ordinary sibling rivalry but by something deeper, something forged in secrecy and courage. She wasn't just my sister anymore, she was my ally, my partner in a journey I had feared I'd have to face alone. We laughed more, confided more, and celebrated the small victories with the joy of conspirators in a secret world. Looking back now, I see that the transformation wasn't just mine. She changed too. She learned patience, empathy, and the power of quiet support. Together, we created a space where identity isn't dictated by fear, and self-expression isn't bound by judgment. I learned to love the person I was becoming, and she showed me how to trust someone with my truths. The day my sister became my secret ally was the day I realized that courage doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes, it's in the quiet acts of someone who sees you, truly sees you, and refuses to let the world define your worth. That day marked the beginning of a new chapter, one where secrets became bridges, fear became fuel, and transformation became a shared adventure. I will never forget that day, or the way she looked at me then, not with judgment or surprise, but with a spark of understanding and solidarity. I carry that moment with me always, as a reminder that allies can be found in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes, the people we think we know best have the power to change our lives forever. Even now, years later, whenever I struggle with fear, self-doubt, or the temptation to hide, I think of her, my sister, my confidant, my secret ally. I think of the day she handed me courage as easily as she handed me a dress, the day she chose to stand beside me instead of stepping back, the day we both transformed in ways neither of us could have predicted. And I remember that transformation isn't just about what the world sees, it's about who you become when someone believes in you enough to hold your hand through it. That day wasn't the end of my journey, but it was the beginning of a truth I had been too afraid to face alone. The day my sister became my secret ally was the day I learned that courage, love, and acceptance often come from the most unexpected corners of our lives. It was the day I realized that transformation isn't just about clothes, appearances, or identity, it's about connection, trust, and the quiet bravery of those who refuse to let you face the world alone. After that night, life settled into a strange rhythm that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. My sister and I had created our secret world, one where I could explore who I really was without fear, but it was still hidden from the rest of the house, from our parents, from everyone else. Every morning, I would wake up with the thrill of possibility buzzing under my skin. Sometimes it was small things: a new scarf, a pair of earrings she let me borrow, a daring hairstyle I'd never tried before. Sometimes it was bigger: stepping into town in a full outfit she had helped me perfect, feeling the stares of strangers and realizing I could meet their gaze without flinching. The danger of discovery was always there, though. I had become hyper-aware of my surroundings, acutely attuned to footsteps, sudden noises, the click of a doorknob. There was a thrill in it, almost like a game, but also a weight, a constant tension in my chest. Every time the phone rang, every time someone knocked on the door, my heart would skip. My sister noticed this before I even did. She started leaving little notes for me: "Breathe. You're fine. Trust yourself." They were small, almost invisible tokens, but they were lifelines. I realized then that what we were doing wasn't just about clothes or appearances, it was about survival, about holding on to our identities in a world that demanded conformity. One afternoon, she pulled me aside after dinner, her face serious for the first time in weeks. "I think it's time you see the world outside our little bubble," she said. My stomach twisted. I had never gone beyond the local park or the backyard in full outfit mode, never ventured into places where people might recognize me or judge me harshly. But, what if someone sees me? What if I started, panic rising? "They won't," she interrupted gently but firmly. "You're ready. I've been with you this whole time. Trust me. And if anyone has a problem, I've got your back." We planned a short outing, nothing too conspicuous, a trip to the bookstore in the next town over, just a few streets away. I dressed carefully, choosing a layered outfit she suggested, one that gave me confidence without drawing too much attention. She examined every detail, adjusted a sleeve, smoothed a strand of hair behind my ear, and finally gave me a nod of approval. "You're ready," she said. The moment we stepped outside, the wind hit me differently. It wasn't just air, it was freedom, possibility, the thrill of existing fully in a body and identity I had been too afraid to show. People walked past, some glancing curiously, some not noticing at all, and I realized that the world was far less terrifying than I had imagined. My sister stayed beside me, hand brushing mine occasionally, a silent reassurance that I wasn't alone. Inside the bookstore, we wandered through the aisles, and I felt a strange sense of pride with every step. She'd taught me how to hold my head high, how to move in ways that exuded confidence, and for the first time, I didn't shrink into myself. I noticed other people looking, but instead of fear, I felt exhilaration. It was intoxicating, the first taste of living without the constant weight of hiding. On the way back home, she stopped by a small cafe, insisting on getting us both a treat. As we sipped our drinks, she leaned over and said, "You know, some people will never understand this. But that's okay. You don't need their approval. You just need yourself, and me." Her words struck me, hitting a chord I didn't realize was still so tender. I wanted to cry, laugh, and scream all at once. I realized that the transformation I had been experiencing wasn't just about clothing or style, it was about trust, courage, and the rare gift of someone believing in you when the world might not. Back at home, the real challenge began. My parents had noticed some subtle changes, my mannerisms, the way I carried myself, even small fashion choices that had slipped past my usual camouflage. They hadn't said anything yet, but the tension in the air was palpable. My sister and I had to be careful, more careful than ever, and it reminded me that while allies are invaluable, secrecy is often necessary. One evening, my sister suggested we take on something daring, a family gathering where I would present myself more boldly than ever. My heart sank at the thought. The family room would be full of relatives who expected me to be one-way, reserved, predictable, quiet, and here I would be, fully myself. "You can do it," she said, catching my panicked expression. "You're stronger than you think. And I'll be right there, every step." The night arrived, and I felt every nerve in my body tense. My outfit was carefully chosen, a blend of elegance and boldness, a balance between who I had been expected to be and who I had become. As we entered the room, conversations paused, eyes flicked toward me, and my pulse raced. But then I felt her hand brush mine under the table, a grounding touch, a reminder that I wasn't alone. Throughout the evening, she found subtle ways to support me, laughing at my jokes, steering conversations to include me, giving me room to shine. I realized that transformation isn't just personal, it's social. The courage to be yourself grows exponentially when someone you trust actively helps you navigate the world's scrutiny. By the end of the night, I noticed subtle changes in the room. People smiled more, some whispered compliments, others simply looked at me differently. My sister caught my eye across the room, a silent acknowledgement passing between us. We had done it. We had faced the world, and I had survived, even thrived, with her by my side. That night, when we returned to our secret room, she hugged me tightly. "You were incredible," she whispered. "I've never been prouder." Her words were more than praise, they were affirmation, validation that the risks, the fear, and the secrecy were worth it. From that moment on, our alliance became unshakable. We explored new expressions, new styles, new ways of presenting ourselves to the world, always together, always supporting each other. Every transformation was a lesson, every outfit a statement, every moment a test of courage. We learned patience, understanding, and the quiet power of unconditional support. Looking back, I understand now that the day my sister became my secret ally wasn't just about a single act of bravery or a shared secret. It was the start of a lifelong partnership built on trust, empathy, and love. She didn't just help me transform externally, she helped me become the person I was always meant to be, the person I had been too afraid to show. Years later, when I think of that journey, I remember every detail: the shimmer of a dress, the brush of her hand, the whispered encouragements, the heart-stopping moments of fear, and the triumphs that followed. I realize that transformation is never just about appearance, it's about connection, courage, and the rare, invaluable gift of someone choosing to believe in you when it matters most. The day my sister became my secret ally wasn't the end of my story. It was the moment the real story began, the story of courage, identity, and the transformative power of love and trust. And I know, no matter what the world throws at me, that I will never face it alone, because she is there, quietly strong, endlessly supportive, and forever my secret ally. Over the following weeks, life felt like a tightrope walk. Every day was a careful balance between maintaining the secret and embracing the freedom I was discovering. My sister and I had devised a system, a network of subtle signals, notes, and hidden messages to let each other know when the coast was clear or when danger was near. Even something as small as a strategically placed scarf on her chair or a casually dropped book could mean go ahead or wait. It was exhilarating in a way I had never imagined. Each day became a test of courage, patience, and trust, and each day I passed, I felt a little more like myself. One afternoon, the tension reached a new height. My parents had planned a small get-together with some extended family members, and suddenly, I was faced with the terrifying possibility of being fully exposed. My sister noticed my anxiety the moment I saw the list of attendees. She gave me a reassuring smile and whispered, "We'll do it together. Trust me." That evening, as the guests arrived, I felt my chest tighten with every new face. I had rehearsed my appearance, my mannerisms, even my voice, trying to strike the balance between being true to myself and not provoking suspicion. My sister stayed close, subtly guiding me, giving small, almost imperceptible cues to keep me grounded. It started innocuously enough, with conversations about school, work, and everyday life. I watched their expressions, half expecting surprise, half hoping for indifference. At first, the fear was overwhelming. I thought I might freeze, but then I caught my sister's eye across the room. Her calm presence, the faint smile she gave me, reminded me that I wasn't alone. I straightened my posture, took a deep breath, and let myself be seen. By the end of the night, something incredible had happened. My relatives had accepted me, or at least tolerated the change without judgment. Some even complimented my appearance, unknowingly reinforcing the courage I had built over months of secret practice. I realized then that the transformation wasn't just personal, it had social ramifications. My identity had shifted from something hidden and fragile to something resilient and acknowledged. But the real turning point came a week later, in an unexpected moment of crisis. My sister and I were experimenting with a new style, a bolder, more daring look than I had ever attempted. I was standing in front of the mirror, adjusting the final details, when the sound of our mother's voice echoed from the hallway. Panic surged through me. My sister grabbed my hand and pulled me behind a curtain in the corner of the room. We held our breaths as footsteps approached, the doorknob turned, and then nothing. She had diverted our mother's attention with a timely question from the other side of the house. We laughed in relief afterward, the tension dissolving into a shared exhilaration. That night, as we reflected on what had happened, my sister said something that has stayed with me ever since: "Fear only has power if you let it. We're stronger together." And she was right. Every near discovery, every whispered warning, every stolen moment of transformation strengthened not only my courage but also the bond between us. As the weeks turned into months, our secret world became richer and more complex. We started documenting our experiments, different outfits, new hairstyles, even subtle changes in voice and posture. It was like building a map of my evolving identity, one that my sister helped me navigate. She became not just an ally, but a mentor, a guide through a world that had once seemed impossible to traverse. One day, she proposed the ultimate test. "It's time for you to meet the outside world fully as you are," she said, her eyes gleaming with determination. "No backyard, no local park. I mean real places, cafes, shops, streets where no one knows you." My heart raced. The thought terrified me, but I also felt a surge of excitement. With her by my side, I felt ready. We started small short trips to nearby shops, casual strolls where I could observe reactions, gauge my comfort, and build confidence. Each outing brought new lessons: how people's glances could be interpreted without fear, how subtle body language could convey confidence, and how trust in my sister's support allowed me to inhabit my identity fully. One afternoon, as we walked through a crowded plaza, I felt a hand on my shoulder. A stranger, curious but polite, asked a question about my outfit. My initial instinct was panic, but I caught my sister's encouraging smile. I answered confidently, and the brief interaction, which could have been terrifying, instead became empowering. The world, I realized, was less hostile than I had imagined. The true challenge had never been the people around me, it had been my own fear. That evening, back in our sanctuary room, we celebrated with quiet laughter and reflections. My sister reminded me, every step outside, every choice you make to be yourself, is a victory. And each victory makes the next one easier. She was right. The transformation was ongoing, not just in how I looked or presented myself, but in how I felt inside, stronger, more certain, and more willing to embrace life on my own terms. Months later, we faced another significant challenge, a school event where I had to present in front of a crowd. My heart pounded at the thought. My parents, unaware of the full extent of my journey, would be there. The pressure was immense. My sister, sensing my panic, whispered in my ear as we prepared backstage, "You've done everything else. You can do this too. I'm here." When I stepped onto the stage, I felt a wave of fear, then a flood of courage. Every glance from the audience, every comment, every smile, became evidence that I could exist fully as myself. The applause at the end was almost secondary. The real victory was knowing that my sister's support had given me the strength to face the world openly, to claim my identity without shame. Through every challenge, every small triumph, and every near miss, one truth became clear: transformation is never a solitary journey. It requires courage, trust, and the rare presence of someone willing to stand with you when fear threatens to overwhelm. My sister became that presence. She wasn't just my ally in secrecy, she was my anchor, my guide, my partner in a journey that reshaped not only how the world saw me but how I saw myself. Looking back now, I understand that the day my sister became my secret ally was the day my life truly began. Not the day of the first outfit, not the first glance in the mirror, but the day I realized that courage and acceptance could be nurtured in the quiet presence of someone who believes in you completely. That day transformed me in ways that clothes, styles, or appearances never could. It transformed my understanding of love, trust, and the power of human connection. Even now, years later, whenever I face fear, uncertainty, or judgment, I think of her, the quiet strength, the unwavering support, the subtle signs that say, "I've got your back." I remember the laughter, the whispered encouragements, the stolen moments of freedom, and the courage that grew in the shadow of secrecy. And I know that transformation, real transformation, comes not just from changing how you look, but from finding someone who sees you, truly sees you, and refuses to let the world tell you who you have to be. The day my sister became my secret ally was the day I learned that courage is contagious, that trust can open doors we never thought we'd dare approach, and that identity, once feared and hidden, could be embraced fully, unapologetically, and beautifully. That day marked the beginning of a life lived with authenticity, and a bond with my sister that would never waver, no matter what challenges lay ahead. The following weeks tested us in ways I hadn't anticipated. My sister and I had grown confident in our secret world, but life has a way of reminding you that safety is fragile. One evening, my parents decided on an impromptu visit from a distant relative. My heart sank the moment I heard the news. I had a carefully planned outfit I'd been saving for a special day, and now there was the terrifying possibility of exposure. I glanced at my sister, who was calmly folding clothes nearby. "We can handle this," she said, her tone steady, unwavering. She had this uncanny ability to make the impossible feel achievable. I wanted to believe her, but panic clawed at me. What if they noticed the differences in my posture, my expressions, the subtle hints of my evolving identity? As the evening approached, we executed our plan with precision. My sister created diversions, casually engaging our parents in conversation while I navigated the house, keeping to the shadows and adjusting my outfit on the fly. Every creak of the floorboards, every raised voice, every sudden laugh sent my heart racing. But she stayed beside me, guiding me silently, anchoring me when I felt the urge to retreat. The tension reached its peak when my mother stepped unexpectedly into the hallway where I was adjusting my hair. I froze, mid-motion, my reflection caught in the hall mirror behind me. My mother paused, her eyes flicking to the mirror and then back to me. I thought I saw recognition flash in her eyes, and my stomach dropped. But then my sister appeared from around the corner, casually interjecting with a question about dinner preparations. My mother, distracted, moved on, and I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. I turned to my sister, gratitude flooding through me. "You saved me," I whispered. She shrugged, a small grin playing on her lips. "We save each other. That's what allies do." That night, after the visitors left, we sat in our secret room, reviewing every moment, every close call. It was exhausting, nerve-wracking, but also exhilarating. I realized something profound. Fear loses its grip when you have someone who understands the stakes and stands beside you unconditionally. My sister had become not just my secret ally, but my shield, my guide, and my partner in transformation. Weeks later, she proposed something that made my pulse race with both excitement and terror: a public outing, fully dressed and fully myself, in a part of town we rarely visited. "It's time," she said, eyes alight with determination. "You're ready to see how the world reacts when you're unapologetically you." The day of the outing arrived, and my anxiety was palpable. Every step toward the city center felt heavier than the last. But my sister's presence beside me was a constant reassurance. She whispered encouragement, adjusted my posture, and even reminded me to breathe. With her guidance, I navigated the streets with a confidence I didn't know I possessed. People glanced, some smiled, some seemed curious, but none reacted with judgment or disdain. I felt a rush of liberation, a confirmation that courage, once nurtured in secrecy, could flourish openly. But life has a way of testing even the strongest bonds. One afternoon, while we were out experimenting with a bold new look, a familiar face appeared, an acquaintance from school who had never seen me like this. My heart pounded. Recognition flashed in their eyes, and I felt the familiar surge of panic. My sister immediately stepped closer, her hand brushing mine, a silent signal to stay calm. The acquaintance stopped, studied me for a moment, then smiled politely and moved on. I exhaled shakily, realizing how far I had come. The fear of discovery, which once would have been paralyzing, was now manageable, tempered by my sister's unwavering support. That day, I understood that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the ability to act despite it, especially when someone you trust stands with you. As the months passed, our secret alliance grew stronger. We created a shared journal of transformations, documenting not just outfits and hairstyles, but the emotional journey behind each change. Every entry reflected progress, setbacks, and insights. We laughed over failed experiments, celebrated successful outings, and comforted each other during moments of doubt. The bond we forged was unlike anything I had experienced: deep, unshakable, and transformative in ways I could never have anticipated. One night, as we reviewed the journal together, my sister looked at me seriously. "You've come so far," she said. "But the next step is believing in yourself without me holding your hand." Her words struck me with a mix of fear and resolve. Could I face the world entirely on my own? The opportunity came sooner than expected. Our school announced a talent showcase, and I decided to participate. My performance would be entirely in my transformed identity. I practiced relentlessly, rehearsing movements, expressions, and confidence. When the day arrived, my heart raced, but I remembered my sister's words and her unwavering support during every prior challenge. Stepping onto the stage, I felt the weight of fear, expectation, and hope collide. But I also felt something else, an inner strength nurtured over months of secrecy, guidance, and trust. Every smile from the audience, every encouraging glance, bolstered my courage. The applause at the end was more than recognition, it was affirmation of the journey I had undertaken, the courage I had cultivated, and the ally who had guided me through it all. Returning home that evening, my sister hugged me tightly. "You did it," she whispered. "I've never been prouder." Her words were more than pride, they were validation, the recognition that transformation is not just about external change but about the growth of character, courage, and self-belief. Looking back now, I realize that the day my sister became my secret ally wasn't a single moment, it was a series of moments, each building on the last, each testing our bond and courage, each shaping the person I had become. She taught me that transformation is not solitary, that identity thrives with trust, and that fear can be conquered when someone stands beside you unconditionally. Even today, years later, I carry those lessons with me. Every time I face doubt or uncertainty, I remember her quiet strength, her unwavering belief, and the countless moments when she guided me, saved me, and celebrated my courage. The day my sister became my secret ally was the day my life truly began, not just the day I discovered freedom in self-expression, but the day I learned the extraordinary power of trust, love, and courage shared between two people. It all came to a head one weekend when my parents decided to host a family barbecue. Normally, these events were a minefield of expectations, where every action was scrutinized and every appearance weighed. But this time, I had resolved to attend fully as myself, fully transformed, and fully confident. My sister noticed the tension in my shoulders as I tried to adjust my outfit in front of the mirror. "You're ready," she said softly, brushing a stray strand of hair behind my ear. Her eyes were calm, steady, and unwavering. "No matter what happens out there, I'm with you. Always." The drive to the barbecue was quiet, punctuated only by the occasional hum of the engine. I stared out the window, my stomach churning, rehearsing every movement, every word I might speak, every smile I might give. Fear and excitement wrestled inside me. I had faced public outings before, but this was different. This was family. Familiar faces. Faces that had known me all my life, who had their own ideas of who I was supposed to be. When we arrived, my sister guided me through the crowd, subtly positioning herself between me and anyone who might notice anything unusual. I felt every gaze, every whispered observation, every curious look. My pulse raced, but I focused on her presence, on the quiet reassurance that we had survived far more precarious situations together. Then, disaster nearly struck. My younger cousin, a sharp-eyed child with a habit of noticing everything, ran toward me with a plate of food, eyes wide. "Wait. You look different," she exclaimed. My stomach dropped. Was this the moment everything would unravel? My sister instantly stepped in, gently taking the plate and steering the conversation elsewhere. The crisis passed, but the adrenaline lingered, my heart pounding from the near exposure. By the time the evening settled, I realized something remarkable. People had begun to accept me, or at least acknowledge me, without comment. I laughed, I talked, I moved freely, and for the first time, I felt entirely myself in a room full of people who had always defined me by their expectations. My sister caught my eye across the lawn, giving me a small, victorious nod. No words were needed. Our journey, our secrecy, our courage had led to this moment. Later, as the sun began to set and the last of the guests left, we returned to our sanctuary room, exhausted but triumphant. My sister sat beside me on the floor, the quiet gravity of the moment settling between us. "You did it," she whispered, a note of awe in her voice. "You faced everything and stayed true to yourself." I smiled, tears threatening to spill. It wasn't just about the outfit, the appearances, or even the public acknowledgement. It was about the journey itself, the fear faced and conquered, the courage discovered, and the bond forged with my sister. She had been my anchor through it all, guiding me, protecting me, teaching me that true transformation comes not from the outside, but from inside, from courage, trust, and love. In the days that followed, I noticed a subtle but profound shift in how I saw myself. I walked taller, spoke clearer, and smiled more freely. Even the smallest acts, adjusting my hair, choosing an outfit, Responding to a compliment felt empowered by the knowledge that I had survived fear, secrecy, and judgment with grace. My sister and I continued our experiments, our secret missions of self-expression, but now with an added layer of confidence. We knew we could face challenges, near discoveries, and judgment, and still emerge whole. And yet, the most important transformation wasn't external. It was the trust that had grown between us, the unspoken understanding that no matter the world, we had each other's backs. The day my sister became my secret ally wasn't a single instant, it was a continuous journey of courage, loyalty, and shared discovery. Every outfit, every whispered encouragement, every near disaster had strengthened that bond, had taught me that transformation is never truly about the clothes or appearances, but about identity, courage, and connection. Even now, years later, I remember the thrill of those secret moments, the fear of being discovered, the excitement of every experiment, and the quiet pride in my sister's eyes. Those memories remind me that transformation is not only possible, it's sustainable when nurtured in trust and love. The day my sister became my secret ally marked the beginning of a life lived unapologetically, authentically, and courageously. I will never forget the first time she handed me a dress and said, "Try it. I want to see the real you." I will never forget the nights of whispered encouragement, the laughter after near disasters, the triumphs of stepping into the world as myself. I will never forget the countless moments when she stood beside me, shielded me, and celebrated me. Because of her, I discovered that identity is not fixed, courage is contagious, and allies can be found in the most unexpected places. The day my sister became my secret ally changed everything. It transformed my understanding of bravery, loyalty, and love. It transformed my relationship with myself, my family, and the world. And most importantly, it showed me that even in fear, even in secrecy, and even in uncertainty, there is always the possibility of becoming who you were meant to be fully, proudly, and with someone who will always have your back. That day was the beginning of a new life. A life where secrets became bridges, fear became fuel, and transformation became a shared adventure. A life where courage, love, and trust could coexist, where I could stand in my truth without shame, and where my sister was not just family, but my unwavering ally, my mentor, and my friend. That day, I realized that true transformation isn't just about what you show the world, it's about who you become when someone believes in you unconditionally. And in that belief, I found the freedom to be myself at last.